How's it going, guys? My name is Andreas and today I'm going to review a couple of hands of a monster session I played in PLO100 today. Went fairly great. Let's have a look at a couple of hands. Here we got ace, king, king against in a spot where we definitely want to inflate the pot and squeeze and see whether we get 4-bet, which is not the case here. Go to a flop and flop the top set. Go ahead and choose a smaller sizing, also definitely less than half of what he has here, because if he calls and he shoves, then I can reopen the pot here and makes it tougher for him to play pots in general. He goes out and calls. Another turn we even improve and go ahead and fire one more, sizing up a river jam. He calls again and we get the very clean run out, which is awesome. Go ahead and jam the river and he snaps with the bottom set, which is amazing, winning about 230 big blinds here. So super good run hand. And here we got another very good hand. We got the top set. Go ahead and check raise against two players. We're fairly deep here, but we also have a gut shot and a spade blocker to go with it. So it's not just pair tops of it. And surprisingly goes again jams. That means we're never going to be super far ahead unless he goes crazy with middle set. But most of the time they have something to go with it. So he ends up having the 10, 9, 8, 7 double suited, which is almost a flip against my hands for at 42%. Now, one of the next hands is also interesting here against a somewhat loose player from under the gun. He goes and jacks back on the turn and decides to go for the check raise, and he surprisingly 3-bets. Also, don't think he's necessarily someone who check backs a lot of knotted hands. So I expect to be up against some ace 9 plus hearts, even though I have 2 hearts in my hand. And sometimes if they have a higher set, I'm not really dead here. So go ahead and jam, and he shows up with the turn 9s, which is a bit unfortunate because double suited 9s, even though he's crazy, he's not going to have a lot of 9s in his range. And as I said, aces and queens in his shoes he would always see bet. So it's a bit unfortunate, but we won the pot as well in the end. Here I go ahead and 4-bet the aces. And then, the rest of the money goes in, and he shows king, king, 3 deuce. So quite a big gift here from this opponent. And we take down another huge pot. Here, a little bit loose open, but I'm fine with it. Go ahead and donk bet this flop. And surprisingly, they also got very, very strong hands. I'm sure the money goes in, and he has aces plus not flush draw. But I was actually doing okay, but not so great against these hands. Given my hand strength of 2 pair and a flush draw and a backdoor hard draw, a super strong hand as well. And in the end, though, took it down against those 2 holdings that were still drawing. Here, go ahead and raise call the button with a decent hand. Go ahead and jam the flop. And I'm up against a better hand than mine. He has a mid pair, a gut shot, and a flush draw, and that's better than my top 2 pair here. Top 2 pair is not a very strong hand in Omaha, and sometimes the draws are just better. So here got the aces again. The majority of the holdings or the big pots are going to be aces based. And here go ahead and actually jam. The top pair blocker is quite relevant. I think it's a bit sad that I don't have spades, but the disconnectivity of this board in particular makes it still, together with my strength of my hand, top pair, aces, makes it still a jam. And it's not so easy for them sometimes to find a hand that has me crushed. And against Syed Work, who has an SPR2 and Tango Junkie, I'm not that bad stacking off. The only thing I don't want to happen is Angel picking up top pair in the flush draw, or worse, top set. But I'm blocking top set. That's basically my main concern. Now the money goes in, and he has 4, 5, 6, 7 with 3 hearts. Also interesting choice there by this opponent. Another aces hand. Big pots, money goes in, and this time I'm up against kings again. So these aces against kings hand are, money printing machine. Here we shove another SPR1 with aces, and also the short stack already on Lin. So he shows up with a king, jack 10, 7. Also interesting choice to call so much before the flop, but sometimes that happens. Another aces hand here, and this disconnected board when the SPR is about 4 or even 5 here. I still think that I should go ahead and pot size bet some hands that have aces plus. The plus here is the backdoor flush draw and the backdoor straight draw. I think it's just good enough on this disconnected board to go ahead and pot and force out a lot of hands, or force a lot of hands to call a large bet. We even improve here on the turn, and Sai at work does what he does best, having a set, but we have rivered ace here for luckily getting the pot. Got the ace king 9-5 double suited 4-ball button 3-bet, which I think is gonna be at this particular moment too wide, and trying to go ahead and 4-bet a little bit wider with a couple of more hands. And this ace king 9-5 double suit qualifies. Shows up with a 10-jack 7-6. Also interesting attempt probably to exploit some of my tendencies. He's actually quite I think a winning regular, so went for a little bit of light 3-bet there. Light 3-bet here on my behalf with, somewhat light, but it has to be some of these bluffs that are connected and double suited. We got 4-bet. This time he has the aces and we flop great, taking down the spot. Last but not least, we go ahead and 4-bet the kings double suited. I usually wouldn't recommend doing that, but this guy was fairly crazy, and double suited kings against crazy people are still a very strong holding. SPR1, the money still goes in. We have gotcha out kings and a backdoor flush draw. Even though I try to somehow induce some really stupid action with like a jack and a gotcha or something. And if I jam, maybe, some more hands fold that I don't want to fold. And ace is never folding anyway, don't get me wrong. So I'm not trying to achieve that. And he ends up having middle set. Unfortunately, we didn't have him set our set here with our 4-bet range that usually has that. So I hope you guys enjoyed this short video about the biggest spot that I played today. I think some of those spots were somewhat interesting. You can see that PLO100 is not so tough when you play solid, and when you just wait for those mistakes that opponents are going to make. You can turn a quite decent profit over the day. After yesterday of losing quite some big pots, this definitely has been much needed correction in the performance of this year. And yeah, I'm happy that it went well today, and I'm gonna basically stream later today for just a little bit, but now I'm gonna play some more hands, because when it's going well, I want to put in really those hours. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, and see you next time.